Thanks again for joining us today. Without a doubt, we are definitely living in an interesting time, which leads us to ever-changing needs, both on the personal level and professional. So today's webinar is something that we've worked on, and we think it's a good place to start in terms of network security and securing your remote workers. We do have a regular cadence of webinars planned to launch in the coming weeks to build off of this webinar today, and we do hope you'll join us for those as well. A few quick housekeeping items before we get started. All attendees are in listen-only mode today. However, this webinar is definitely designed for active engagement. So please, with a capital T, send your questions in the Q&A panel. We will pause during the webinar for live Q&A. So definitely submit those questions and just know that during the webinar, there will be times where we'll stop for some live Q&A. We do have a packed agenda today, so if we do run short on time, we will definitely touch back with you and answer your questions directly. And lastly, at the end of today's webinar, Johan will share a QR code linking to our feedback survey. This is your chance to influence our content and help us be the best. So it's 4 quick questions, less than a minute to complete. Many thanks in advance for your participation. We do also have a special offer during this webinar. So wait for that announcement from Johan. And now I'd like to introduce you to your speaker, Johan Bloomhart, WatchGuard Virtual CTO and Pacific Northwest Engineer. Johan, take it away.
Thanks so much, Wendy. Welcome, everyone. So much to my chagrin, I am actually doing something a little bit different on this show, and we are going with a live webcam. So hopefully you guys can all see me here in studio. Hopefully this helps close the distance. I know I've been seeing a number of familiar names on this attendee list. Hi, Jody. Hi, everyone. I see Andy's on. Welcome, guys. So today, wanted to certainly cover what's the most pressing on. I've heard a lot of questions, a lot of emails on how do we get our remote workers in. So certainly wanted to cover the basis and go from there. But we have a couple of slides. And as you know, me, I prefer to spend a lot less time in slides and more time in a live environment. So certainly we'll pivot over to a live environment as well. So hopefully you guys can all hear me, see me. Welcome. We are still doing this social distancing thing just across the miles. And with that being said, with so many technical things here, we all know that we are playing with Murphy's Law. So nothing is as easy as it looks. Everything takes longer than you expect. If anything can go wrong, it will go wrong, and at the worst possible moment. So we're going to try to get through this. I appreciate everyone's patience on this, but certainly wanted to also infuse some humor on this. So as you can see on the screen, do you know what Murphy's Law is? Sure, if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. Right. Have you heard of coleslaw? No, what is it? Thinly sliced cabbage. So obviously that's my feeble attempt at some humor here, but certainly wanted to include a little bit as we go through. So other exciting news, you might have read in the news, we actually acquired, or we are in the process of acquiring Panda. 2 companies, one powerful security platform from the network to the user. Obviously, this is extremely exciting. You're going to hear more news on that. But for today's session, we all obviously have more pressing news on this. So just stay tuned on that. Now, as we talk about this agenda, one of the funny things is Wendy initially, and she does a great job. Love Wendy, love working with her. She initially sent me the agenda and she said, hey, you have 30 minutes to do this. So 30 minutes, we have to, a whole session that we can include in that 30 minutes. So what I foresee happening is that we actually break it up maybe into 1 or 2 sessions, or actually 5 different sessions. You guys let me know what you would actually want to see. But as I was thinking about today's agenda, obviously we have a very pressing matters at the forefront of our mind. But I wanted to also include some more elementary discussions for you guys. What is a VPN? A lot of you are familiar with a VPN, so stay with me as we talk about some of those basic things. But to go over overview of WatchGuard products, to talk about some remote access options. Those would include mobile user VPNs, Egg V2, mobile SSL. I get a lot of questions now. How can we actually expand our licenses? So we'll talk about that. Access portal is a great tool. However, it might not be applicable for every one of your remote workers out there. And we are certainly in unique times. Some organizations, they might have shifts of users. Now all those users are trying to remotely access the network. So obviously, those are going to take a toll as well. Talk about some options. Firebox V, Firebox Cloud. We've never really explored the option before of using Firebox Cloud as a band-aid for allowing these remote workers to remote in through VPN. So certainly, we can use our Firebox V or Firebox Cloud for some options for that. And then obviously a multi-factor authorization as well. And then securing your endpoints. We're going to touch a little bit on that, but obviously, as you know from past experiences, past webinars, Firebite sessions, securing your endpoints is a whole new topic. And certainly, as we go through this, send in your questions, and we will. I want to have a regular cadence, maybe even 2-3 Firebites a week to get us through this time. Let me know how I can help you guys as we go through this. But certainly wanted to infuse some more humor. If you've been to one of my boot camps, I just did a boot camp in Washington. First year in InfoSec, 3 years in InfoSec. And this can kind of be translated now to 1 day in quarantine and 3 days in quarantine. But certainly, who doesn't love a baby Yoda? And as we go through this, feel free to let me know if you have questions. I'm going to be monitoring the questions pane. Wendy will also prompt me, keep me on board as well. But a little bit before we begin. So I've been doing this on the road game. This was a picture of me in my mobile office, a Jeep outside this restaurant in Portland, actually. But I think it's important to share with you my background. I did used to be a security hippie. It was interesting because as long as the help desk calls were not coming in, people were happy. I was happy, kicking my feet back. So certainly, I've been in the trenches. Unfortunately, I've been hacked a couple times, but the first time was not really a hack, but someone played a joke on me. And that really shifted that methodology away from being a security hippie into more being a security evangelist. I did spend about 15 years in public education in the Oregon school districts as a network administrator and then a director of technology, last of which I was actually a WatchGuard customer. That's how I came to WatchGuard. I wanted WebSense, but didn't want to pay $6 a license for WebSense. So I came to WatchGuard and saved about $21,000 over a 5-year period. I am a road warrior for the last 6 years or so. I do travel quite frequently. So when it comes to remote access, remote security, I know a thing or two about that, hopefully. And I do understand the challenges of working remote while maintaining security. As you can see there, I'm in the Jeep and trying to do a webinar from the Jeep. So certainly a little bit different today. I'm not in the Jeep, but here we are. So who is WatchGuard? Interestingly enough, we were one of the 4 horsemen with network security. We were founded in 1996. We are headquartered in Seattle, Washington, and a lot of our quality support comes out of Seattle, Washington. A lot of them might be actually working from home these days, but certainly I have ripped out technology because I haven't been able to understand or hasn't been quality customer service. Certainly with WatchGuard, you have the benefit of the doubt, knowing that we are actually headquartered and based right out of Seattle, Washington. These are obviously old stats as we look at our acquisitions over the last 2-3 years. WatchGuard has been extremely busy with acquiring new companies, TDR, DNS Watch, Panda. All of these acquisitions are coming to you as part of our what we do, our security focus as well. We have over 80,000 company or customers, and we don't sell direct. So that's an important part. If you were to come to me on the street and say, hey, Johan, how can I actually buy a WatchGuard? Here we have a T70. How can I actually buy that? I can't sell it to you direct. We only operate through our channel program. So what we do today, we are heavily focused, obviously, on network security. That's our flagship product. We also have secure Wi-Fi. We also have multi-factor authentication. So when it comes to securing your remote workers, obviously network security is a big part of that. You can spin up what we refer to as a VPN on there. We'll talk a little bit about that. Obviously, secure Wi-Fi with that patented WIPs. That's an important component as well. But as organizations are focusing or shifting their work, their employees more to the home, that we probably have a little bit of runway to not discuss that on this session. We'll definitely go into multi-factor authentication as well from there. So as I mentioned, we are going to kind of have a more base approach. Maybe some of you are on the line that don't actually know what a VPN is. So just to recap and take a step back, my wife often reminds me, she says, Johan, that's all common knowledge to you, but obviously you're in the industry. Sometimes it helps to slow down, take a step back, and actually explain what options are available and what different terminology means. So as we talk about a VPN is a virtual private network. And really, it's about securing the internet or securing your connection to a network over the internet. Now, there are a couple options that we have available. So with WatchGuard, we actually have two different modes that you can talk about VPN in that environment. So we have a branch office VPN that is about securing or connecting your head office to maybe a factory. So that's a great option. I know a number of you have actually moved away from an MPLS network. You're leveraging WatchGuard to connect that. You're saving those costs on the MPLS network. So that's a great option. However, as we talk about today, and the focus of our needs today is more about that mobile user VPN experience. How do I make sure that that user is secure and that they have access to all those resources in their environment? Now, as we talk about those resources or those users in their environment, so as I'm sitting here and perhaps, I get a Microsoft Teams request from our marketing department that says, hey, hop in this file share or leverage this resource. How can I do that remotely? And possibly you're 100% in the cloud. You saw this virtual worker episode, or you saw where we're coming and you've moved to the cloud. And so you have a lot of those resources in the cloud. However, what happens if you have a lot of on-premise equipment still? So really what a VPN allows you to do is, while I'm sitting here in my office, I can spin up a VPN connection, and I'm just as I was sitting in the corporate offices as in Seattle, and I have full access to those corporate resources. My IP address is just as I was in the office. Now, obviously, that's also going to secure that connection from my laptop to the corporate office as well. So if you were sitting at Starbucks, if we were allowed to have or not be social distancing, we could be sitting at Starbucks. And how do we stop you or hackers from listening to those connections as well? And that's really the power of a VPN connection. Now, one of the biggest questions I actually have been getting nowadays is, how many connections can I have with my Firebox? So one of the things I wanted to mention is, under our comparison charts, if you actually scroll down, so this is a comparison chart on our T55. We have our T55 with built-in wireless. We have our T70. I love my T70, right? There's a T70 here. You can see all the ports. T70. Now, just to back up a little bit, under our T55, you can see that it has a -W. That means that we have wireless in there. So a T55 with built-in wireless is not going to have a metal case. It has plastic because of the integrated Wi-Fi antennas. However, on the T70, we don't have a wireless option available, so that case is metal. But how many VPN connections can I actually have under that T70? So if you look at this chart here, we have a branch office VPNs. That was the first method that I had mentioned to you about office to office. You can have 50 of those connections. Now, when it talks about mobile users, we can actually talk about SSL, and that is 60 users, and then IPsec, Egg V2 connections under there. And certainly we're going to also show you, I mentioned that I don't like the slides, so we're hopefully going to throw those out shortly and show you what that actually looks like in a live environment. I just wanted to show you guys where you can see those VPN connection counts. Now, the important thing to note is that for the T70, those 60 licenses, that's really not a software limit. So if you call up Morgan, you call up your local WatchGuard resellers, unfortunately, we can't sell you additional VPN licenses. You would either need to upgrade your Firebox. So this would be a T70. This would be great for up to 50 users, 60 users around there. But ultimately, you can either upgrade your Firebox, or what you can do is spin up a Firebox V or something in the cloud, a Firebox Cloud edition that allows you to have those additional VPN connections. But we can't sell you, it's not a software restriction on the firewall. Okay, so as we talk about comparing the mobile user VPN solutions, we have basically two different arenas that we can talk about. So we have the mobile SSL VPN option, and then we have an Egg V2. So hopefully you guys are not using the IPsec clients. Hopefully you're transitioning over to Egg V2. As we talk about the pros and cons of each. So I'm just going to run through the list, and I do have some bit.ly links down there for you guys. Those bit.ly links will take you directly to WatchGuard's knowledge base articles on leveraging, for instance, SSL VPN, setting up the client, but certainly we'll walk through that as well. So the pro with a mobile SSL VPN allows AuthPoint, so that's WatchGuard's multi-factor authentication with Active Directory users natively. It's easy to configure. The other thing is, I would oftentimes, I do travel and staying in a hotel. Sometimes the hotels would actually have limitations on IPsec or Egg V2 traffic getting through. So the SSL client, because it is 443, has the option to get through because a lot of people aren't doing 443 inspection. So it does work in a lot of different scenarios that Egg V2 wouldn't work. Now, the con is that it's a bit slower. You can actually change your data channel to UDP packets as well. So if you want to see some of that, let me know, and I can cover that with you. Egg V2, there's no additional software to install, no additional cost, and there's faster throughput on there. Some firewalls do block that access, the Egg V2. And then you also need to integrate, if you wanted to tie in, for instance, AuthPoint MFA, to Active Directory, you would also need an additional component to NPS. And let me know if you guys are interested in that, and I can do some tutorials on some additional or some future Firebyte sessions. And there's a bit.ly link for your WatchGuard Egg V2 as well from there. So as we look at your Egg V2, and again, I just use it on my native client. So as I go in here, and let me see if I can get my reflector going. 1 second. So let me see if I can end the show and come into my reflector software. Murphy's Law is coming at me. Okay, so let me go in and see screen mirroring, reflector. Let's see if this will work. 508. Bear with me, guys. And there we go. Whew. Overcame that hurdle. So as you can see on my screen here shortly, there we go. Wow, struggle's real. So as you can see here, you go into settings, and if I were to update, I'm not sure if my cam software is going to be able to bear with me here, but under VPN, I have my VPN option there. So all I would have to do is toggle my VPN, and I am my VPN is connected to my corporate office. So very easy to do. You can build in, or it's built in client. You also have it, your VPN option as well from your Mac interface. You could just connect to WatchGuard that way. So very easy to do. Just know that that functionality is there as an Egg V2. And certainly I'll cover going over the installation of the SSL as well. All right. So I did upgrade, corporate did upgrade my RAM on my laptop. I'm at 16 gigs of RAM, but unfortunately with the webcam, since I am doing, this is part of a green screen, obviously, it is taking a little bit more processing. So we're going to try to get through it. If need be, I can cut my webcam. But Egg V2 client on a Mac, again, very easy to configure. As you can see on the screen, not many options. You would just set up your group and set up your server address, as you can see right there. This is your SSL VPN client. Now you guys are probably all going to hack me since my server address is right there. But certainly, thankfully, I have a WatchGuard, and I will set up my configuration. I'll take down, change my SSL so that you guys can't get in on there. But in any case, just an overview of the network security appliances. We have our appliance family there. We also have Firebox V options. So Firebox V would be in a Hyper-V. We also have a VMware. And then we have additional functions as well coming out, which I will mention to you here shortly. But we also do have Firebox Cloud options as well. So we have a small, medium, large, and extra large from there, which I will cover shortly. So as we talk about our network security subscriptions, an important part about that and about those VPN licenses is that you might actually have a M500, you might have an older firewall, and you can actually still use that as a VPN concentrator. As you can see here, we have 3 ways you can actually license your WatchGuard: support only. That's going to give you, for instance, a branch office VPN support. It will still give you those application proxies. Moving from there, we have the second level from the top. That's our basic security. And that includes all of our security services such as intrusion prevention, signatures, application control to stop or to keep in check perhaps your children watching YouTube while schools are canceled. They're at home watching YouTube, and certainly you still want that bandwidth to be able to have for business-related activities as well. Spam blocker, web blocker, antivirus, reputation-enabled defense, network discovery, all included under basic security. Taking that to the premium level, you have total security. So with total security, you actually have APT blocker, which is our sandboxing analysis. You also have a data loss prevention, protection, and prevention. You have a TDR, which is our endpoint. And certainly that is one of the items that we're going to cover on a future Firebite session on how to protect those endpoints. But again, for today's session, it's going to be primarily focused on VPN as well. We have DNS Watch. So if you're familiar with, for instance, what Cisco Umbrella is doing, that's one of our biggest competitors. So being able to handle our DNS traffic and being able to filter that to command and control traffic, DNS Watch is going to be your answer. We've actually taken that one step further, which I'll cover here shortly, and that's through WatchGuard Passport. So stay tuned for that as well. And then we have Dimension Command and WatchGuard Cloud Visibility Data Retention. So hopefully you guys are all leveraging WatchGuard Cloud Visibility and Data Retention. Again, if you're on total security, which that's what I would recommend is total security for a number of reasons, but certainly you have 30 days of data retention under there. And whether or not you want to know if someone's trying to get somewhere where they shouldn't be, you can set up all those notifications, or if your primary internet connection goes down, get that email connection from or email notice from WatchGuard Cloud saying that your primary network connection went down. And certainly, as I'm talking about network connection, you also have functionality such as SD-WAN that you can leverage and look at packet loss, latency, and jitter, and make those informed decisions about which link you actually want to go out. All right, so the first area, or actually second after the VPN, is this area that I would recommend. That's called the Access Portal. So that is a clientless remote access via HTML5 that is protected by a TLS encryption, has SAML support, and has the ability with a newer release of having a reverse proxy. Now, one of the things that oftentimes people come back to me and they say, oh, great, we want our whole organization to actually use this functionality, which I'll show you here shortly. The one caveat is that we are running approximately 20 megabytes of RAM per session. So it's not really a solution for all of your workforce to log in and use this access portal. But let me go ahead and show that to you, what that actually looks like here. My computer will actually cooperate. And are there any questions at this point? Feel free again to shoot them into the questions pane. All right. So there's a few questions as I'm going through here. Jim, thanks for the a nice bow tie. My mom did make that for me, custom branded WatchGuard. Can we have a copy of the slides by Stephen? Absolutely. In regard to Firebox Cloud, are you going to be adding it to the Google Cloud platform? That's certainly a request. I just put that request in probably about 2 months ago. Certainly, as we see GCP, their positioning in the marketplace, we are keeping a close eye on that, and absolutely that is a feature request that I have in. So thank you, Mark, on that. We are looking at additional options for remoting and have done a few SSL VPNs to either resources or RDP. I was curious if you knew some additional functionality through WatchGuard like the portal that can work with the T-series that we have deployed through many of our clients. So on there, the T-series on the clients, we do. So as an example, the access portal, which I'm going to show you, is available on our M270 and higher right now. The VPN options are available, SSL, Egg V2 options, but unfortunately, we do not have the access portal available on our T-series boxes, and that is primarily because of our the RAM limitation on those. Now, if you do want to look up how much RAM, you can easily find that in our hardware guides. And forgive me as I go through this, you might see a stunned look on this, or I'm trying to formulate an answer in my mind. You guys might stump me, and I might have to come back and say, I don't know the answer to that, but we are making this work. So, can you use the SSL and IPsec VPN at the same time? Absolutely. What about if you're using branch office VPN too? So as we look at that license count, you can use those branch office VPNs at the same time as your mobile user VPNs. Just know that as you look at that count, and just to recap here, hopefully everything is working as it should and the video isn't too choppy. But as we go back to those VPN connection counts, so as an example, the VPNs or the T70, you can have 50 of those VPN tunnels going at the same time that you have your SSL clients connecting in. So with the SSL clients and IPsec, those are a hard number. So you would have 60 total. So you could have 30 SSL and 30 IPsec under there. But certainly you can do those all at the same time as well. Drew asks, is there any way to confirm antivirus software being installed on the client side during their connection? And actually, this is a fun one. Drew, we actually have under our new TDR client, and let me go in there. Sorry guys, I'm going a little bit off script to answer your question. As I go under my WatchGuard and go to manage TDR, there's a new component where you can actually set up TDR to verify, or you set up the Firebox to verify that TDR is installed. So I go under TDR, and again, TDR is our endpoint protection right now as it stands, and that is obviously pre-merger to Panda. Panda is changing the game for us, so stay tuned on that side. As I look at my configuration and I go into policy, let's look at host sensor. So under my groups, all right, having a little bit tough time finding this here. Bear with me. And again, if you get nervous having one person watch you, try having all these people watching me. But under my, I believe I found it under my host sensor, there's actually a TDR authentication. Thanks for bearing with me. Under TDR authentication, there is host sensor enforcement for VPN connections to that Firebox. So while it's not making sure that you have AV configured under there, we can do part of that with ensuring that we have TDR under there. So hopefully that's helpful, Drew. Wow, the questions are coming in. Is there a limit on Egg V2? Yes, Egg V2 is going to be the same count as the IPsec. Great question. Is 2FA included with the free SSL client, or do I need to purchase MFA? People are really giving me a run for their money here. So 2FA, we'll talk a little bit more about 2FA. That is multi-factor authentication. AuthPoint is an additional charge. Pennies on the dollar is a great investment. I will cover that as well. But that one, there is an additional charge. If you wanted to do that, Passport is the way to go for that. And Chris, can we limit bandwidth per session for SSL VPN connections? The concern would be many users using the SSL VPN connections to do their work remotely. The per session, we might exhaust the limitations for upload, download for the connection. Is this something we should even be concerned about? So that's a great question, Chris. So there's two ways to really slice and dice this. Previously, when we had kind of a split workforce, some people were in the office, some people were remote. I would say 100% you would do a full tunnel route. Nowadays, you actually might say, I want to do a split tunnel route, and we'll cover that a little bit additional as well. Okay, so one more. So I configure SSL with someone else's MFA, but for some reason it only works when I add Radius users individually under SSL, but it doesn't work for Radius groups. So I might have to get back to you on that, Mohammed. Any idea why I cannot authenticate based on the Radius group? I definitely will have to reach out to you afterwards, and we'll go from there. But all right, so we are moving right along. Hopefully I got to your question. If not, feel free to email us afterwards. But really, I wanted this session to get the answers to you guys that you need. And certainly, I feel it is more valuable to have more of a live session. All right, so I did want to mention as well, Firebox V, I touched a little bit on that a little bit. It is available for Hyper-V, VMware, and KVM, and that's in 12.6, so that will be coming out shortly. It's a great option for additional VPN licenses. So if you're hitting license counts or license limitations on your firewall, to be clear, Egg V2 is the same license count as IPsec, which is both together with SSL is going to be capped under there. Now, one of the things to mention is that under our firewalls itself, we actually have a crypto assist chip on many of those models. So you're actually going to get faster throughput speeds on your VPN. Your crypto assist chip is also helping out with, for instance, HTTPS inspection. It's also going to help out with your VPN connections. So you will not have those on your Firebox V. So your mileage is really going to vary depending on cores, how much RAM you have allocated to that, etc. But obviously, we have Microsoft Hyper-V, VMware, and a KVM support coming soon. Now, one of the other options that we have available is the Firebox Cloud. And there was a great question with Google Cloud product. Obviously, that one is we're keeping an eye on that. I'm pushing for a product within Google Cloud as well. But just know, today we have options available in AWS and Microsoft Azure. License is available in two different ways. You can actually do a bring your own license or pay as you go. Now, I've been running a pay as you go, spun it up temporarily. Just know your license costs are going to be a little bit higher on pay as you go versus reaching out to your WatchGuard reseller and saying, I need to bring a license. That would be bring your own license. So just keep that in mind. It's also a great option for additional VPN licenses. And again, there's no hardware crypto assist chip. Your mileage is going to vary depending on the size of that. So AuthPoint, the next part of securing your connection, securing your remote access workers is this idea of AuthPoint. And why is MFA such a popular issue these days? Unfortunately, as we see more and more remote workers VPNing in, that means today we might have more users with VPN access that we actually didn't have 2 days ago, or sorry, last month, right? So what actually happens, unfortunately, is that your passwords are out there. Unfortunately, this gentleman, you might have remembered the missile warning from Hawaii that everyone got on their cell phones. And unfortunately, this gentleman had posted this picture on social media. His password there is posted on a sticky note. Unfortunately, it's happened to me. My password has actually been released. And I was sitting at home one day, got an email from Domino's that said, hey, by the way, your pizza is on the way. I looked and it was being delivered in New York. Long story short, my password had been used to log into my username, and password had been logged into Domino's. They had used my rewards. Whoever knew Domino's had rewards to order a pizza. So fortunately, I wasn't out financially, but just know as your password, unfortunately, has been released out there, how can you check it? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So make sure that you check out this resource, Have I Been Pwned? I get people that ask me, well, what does that actually mean to be pwned? So I thought, well, let's throw out a definition of pwnage. It originated especially in video gaming. It's the utterly defeat of an opponent or rival. I don't play Fortnite or anything, so I'm not familiar with the video game lingo. Completely get the better of. But pwned in this context simply means that your account has been the victim of a data breach. The word itself takes its name from a player-to-player messaging in online computer gaming. When one player is defeated, another might type out a message to say, you've been owned or pwned. So on that note, where's Johan going? Don't worry, I'm getting back to script, Wendy. But there's a website, it's actually nonprofit organization made by Microsoft. Make sure you check it out. Have I Been Pwned? Now you can type in your email address and then click on Have I Been Pwned? Now in this particular instance, bill@microsoft.com has been pwned. 77 different sites have been breached and 39 different pastes on there. Now, what does that actually mean? Can you actually get the password from there? Certainly. Other sites have that password readily available. So if you were to if you were to look at this, you might see Bill Gates at Microsoft.com and his password. And again, those passwords are readily available through a data connection or through a data breach. So make sure that as you're talking about allowing these users to have VPN access in there, unfortunately, the bad guys are recognized and they're going to start leveraging. We've already seen social hacking as well, right? Unfortunately, people are making use of the time, the messaging in the news. They're also taking that one step further as well. So make sure that you're also protecting those remote access users with MFA. So stolen passwords are the doors to the network. Use MFA. AuthPoint is easy to manage through the cloud through a lightweight agent. I will give you that demonstration here shortly. But as Wendy mentioned, we have an exciting announcement to help you guys get through this period as well. You have free AuthPoint for 60 days, up to 250 users. Again, just reach out to your local WatchGuard reseller, your WatchGuard team, myself. Will help get you in touch with us. And then I'm thinking also of doing a Firebytes future session on having that, how to configure that. And one more. Okay, so Michael asks, is mobile VPN Egg V2 the preferred mobile VPN over VPN IPsec connection? And that is, I would recommend that because security vulnerabilities of IPsec traffic. So I would recommend that you're using Egg V2. Again, there's resources available. I had that bit.ly link. And this whole presentation will be posted to our WatchGuard Northwest YouTube channel. So you'll have access to that, and I'll have those links in there as well. But absolutely, I would recommend using Egg V2. So going back, some of the points about AuthPoint app, some of the main features is that you have a mobile token. There's nothing additional to carry. So my cell phone, I carry it around everywhere. It has that AuthPoint app, which I'll show that to you as well. There's nothing extra to carry. Now, if you are concerned about not paying for your employee's cell phone or their cell phone plan, we actually have one-time password as well, tokens. This one is available by Fashion. I think I'm pronouncing that. I'm probably butchering the name on that. But just know we have hardware tokens available as well from there. There's 3 authentication features in one. We'll cover that. There's a time-based, one-time password, push-based authentication, and a QR code for offline. We also have a mobile multi-token app, device DNA, PIN protection, and mobile biometrics integration as well. So as we look at what it would take to have MFA on premise, we have 4 different components. We have our cloud AuthPoint management. I'll show that to you here shortly. So what we would do is install AuthPoint Gateway on premise. That would do synchronization of your Active Directory users. It would also do password verification. So we aren't sending any usernames and passwords to our AuthPoint Cloud. However, with that agent, we are able to verify user passwords. We have Active Directory LDAP sync, and it's also a radius proxy or radius server. So you don't, in some scenarios, you're using SSL VPN, you don't need to have additional server on premise for your radius. And then we also have the AuthPoint Windows logon, Mac logon, so we can protect that desktop. If you're a mobile road warrior, nowadays, most people are in their home office, so no need to necessarily focus on that so much, but certainly in the future Firebytes, we'll cover those. And then the mobile app as well from there. So let's look at how that's setting up our, let's just do a demo here. So the first thing I want to show you is looking at the access portal. As you can see, my computer's struggling just a bit because of, in fact, let me just go ahead and cut my webcam here shortly. Okay, so we've cut this. We should have a little faster access, and I did want to show you guys, let's get Reflector up. And keep the questions coming in, guys. I love more interaction. We do have quite a few more questions. Let's go ahead and type in my Reflector code here. All right. So Reflector is just an application that I have so that I can see both my my phone and my desktop at one time. So under AuthPoint, we have that is our WatchGuard application from there. Now, don't get too nervous. Most of your users are actually going to only see 1 or 2 tokens under AuthPoint. Under here, you can see I've customized some of the pictures. We were sailing in the Caribbean, got this beautiful tuna in the waters. Had the most amazing sushi from that. But anyway, back to more official script. Here we can see that we also have some of our third-party tokens available as well. So we can protect Facebook, LastPass, Amazon as well from there. So as this user logs on, and this is our access portal demonstration. So let me just show you what's actually going on in my firewall here real quick. So as I log into my firewall, again, we have a number of ways to manage your firewall, but you could actually, I'm showing you the web right now. So if I go under subscription services and I have my access portal, I can see how easy it is to set up and securely provide that RDP server out there. So there's my RDP server, host location. We also have SSH options as well. Host shell access. We also have cloud apps that we can have as well. So how this would actually look, we have user connection settings. We have our access port here, 443. We also have reverse access, or reverse proxy, excuse me, options, SAML, and customization. So this was a picture I had taken actually on my trip to Mexico a few years ago. You can actually customize that background as well with your logo, a custom image as well from there. So how this would actually look is this user goes to the website of your firewall. So this again is being hosted by your Firebox. And as this user logs on here, Jack tries to log in, and hopefully if everything works well, he will then get this notice that says, are you trying to sign in? Has a IP address, the resource as well, and I can click on approve from there. I click on approve and it lets me through this user process. So this is the access portal. Again, I can click on RDP server and now I am RDP'd into my resources. As you can see here, I have my WatchGuard system manager. Now, again, just to reiterate, this user, I have my saved credentials. So if you didn't save credentials, you would just, the user would be prompted to log in. Again, it's more of a great way for your IT administration staff to have access into on-premise equipment through RDP. So that is our RDP server. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention as well, let me get this guy over here. This is protecting the desktop level with WatchGuard AuthPoint. So let me just revert this a snapshot here. So we're going to do a couple of things with this demonstration. I'm going to show you how I can protect that desktop logon. So as Jack logs in here, he types a super secure password and tries to log on. Now, as you can see here, we have send push notification. This is the most user-friendly way to do a push notification. It says, are you trying to sign in? It has my location. I click on approve, and it lets me through to the desktop logon, no problems whatsoever. So that's great. What actually happens if Jack actually, maybe he's offline somewhere, right? What actually does that process look like? So if I go and log on here, I have a few different options under here. As you can see, I have a QR code, one-time password. I can also do a forgot token as well from there. So a forgot token, or sorry, excuse me, a QR code is going to allow me to do an offline authentication. So again, if I was hiking to the middle of nowhere, maybe Egypt or somewhere where I didn't have internet access, I could actually just click on this QR code reader right here on the screen. What it's going to do is allow me to look at my QR code, and I'm just going to go in, select that or read that QR code, and that's going to give me a code right here. So right from there, I say 603-828. And by doing that, I'm ensuring that I actually have physical access to that token, right? So that is the important part, that I have that physical access to that token. Once I do that, I log on. I can see that that's going to expire, and that's going to give me a new code. But again, there's no codes to download before I get on a plane or go offline. This is just a QR code reader on there. So once I go back, the other option is that I could go in and say, I forgot my token, work with my help desk as well. I'm going to revert this back real quick, and then I'll show you the installation of the SSL client and how that looks, that user experience looks like with multi-factor authentication. Hopefully this has been helpful for you guys as we're working through this. As this is going, let's do a push notification. I'm just going to get caught up on questions again. Again, you guys are sending in the questions. I love it. Hopefully it makes this session more interactive. Let me start up Google before I do this. So the easiest way, I'm going to stop all these installations of parallels. The easiest way I recommend is just to go to software.watchguard.com. How do we actually get the VPN client licenses that Johan's talking about? Obviously, with the Egg V2, you can actually use the built-in client from there. But as you look at this, we also have the options here, WatchGuard Mobile VPN with SSL software. And again, just to back up slightly, I just went to software.watchguard.com, selected my firewall that I have, and it prompts me with this installation software from here. So I can just click on Mobile VPN with SSL option. Once this is downloaded, install it. We also have a premium client as well, and that NCP client is going to allow you to do pre-boot authentication, run your installation scripts, maybe it's group policy object scripts that you have before that user logs on. So I would recommend that for emergency services such as ambulances, where they're running always, they need to have an always on connection. I'm going to say always install this, and I'm going to launch it. So from there, I'm going to type in my address, and I'm going to type in Jack's credentials from here. So I type in Jack's credentials. It says the certificate issue for the certificate isn't trust. I'm going to go ahead and say I want to approve that. And now it says, are you trying to sign in? I click on approve, and that allows me through with our AuthPoint agent connected as part of the SSL connection. And we can see that it's spinning up, and now it would be as if I was sitting at my corporate office with that connection. So again, that is listed under mobile VPN with SSL software. We also have the IPsec with VPN that's provided by NCP client. That one is a premium client. You can customize that one, brand it, but just know that that's available as an option as well for you guys. All right, let's move these offline, and let's see if we can get the cam back up. All right.
While we're waiting for that, Johan, I just wanted to mention, we do have a handout, a user guide on how to instantly access your 60-day free MFA. So take a look at that in the handout.
Yes, thank you for that reminder, Wendy. So a couple more questions that came in. Can AuthPoint MFA be tied into SSO? So I'm assuming with SSO that might be tying into Active Directory, and absolutely, I'll walk through that process as well. Kyle, let me know if that didn't fully answer your question. Carlos, is the client installed on the firewall or Active Directory? That's a great question. So Carlos, there, as I mentioned, with AuthPoint, you would have a lightweight agent. Let's actually just pivot over and take a look at that. So with WatchGuard Cloud, hopefully you guys are all familiar with what we're doing with WatchGuard Cloud. I love it. We're completely revolutionizing WatchGuard Dimension. We're providing those logging and visibility tools for no additional cost if you guys are under total security. And again, it has those notifications, so make sure you're checking you've set up those notifications if your primary link goes down. But I'm in WatchGuard AuthPoint right now under my management, my users. So a couple of things that I want to mention is that you can download the gateway right from here. So the gateway would be a lightweight agent that would sit on premise. So that would be installed on premise, and that would allow your synchronization of your Active Directory users and allow you to verify your Active Directory usernames and passwords through that agent. Now, if you have Active Directory in Azure, not a problem. We actually have a connector as well that you can port your users or import them from there. So as we talk about WatchGuard AuthPoint, you have your gateway, then you would build your external identity. And again, I'm going to go a little bit high level in this, and certainly if you guys are interested with future Firebyte sessions, we'll cover more in depth on how to configure and leverage AuthPoint in your environment. So in this case, we would say, this is my advanced query. I can synchronize groups under there. So a lot of you say, well, how do I set up my users for a token? This is actually pulling my Active Directory right here, and I say under here I have MFA enable, and these are my users that I'm going to port into WatchGuard AuthPoint. Just know that as you're looking at porting over those users, that you're communicating with your users, because as soon as I set my group up to sync and those users are imported into AuthPoint, all your users are going to get an email saying, welcome to AuthPoint. So you're definitely going to want to make sure that you have that awareness training before that happens. You have your user verification service. So another cool tip and trick that I like to recommend is that under here, as you have more and more workers working remote, what happens when a user says, I forgot my password? How do you actually know that that's them? And what we actually can do is under your item here, you can say, I want to do user verification service. So you can customize this message, but from there you can say send push notification. Let me just pull over my my phone again. Again, I'm really taxing my computer on the RAM. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. All right, so as I'm in here, it'll click on user verification, and it looks like it's going to be too slow. Send push notification, and as soon as I send that push notification, it's going to say verify your identity, and right from there, I get the verify the identity. Sorry, my computer's lagging a bit, and then it's going to show on my computer. So once I say verify the identity, it sends a request back and says Johan actually verified that. Johan has approved this. So cut this guy out so I can free up some more RAM. So that is a user verification service. Hopefully that answered your question, Carlos. John asked, what's the link for configuring AuthPoint gateway as the radius server? So under there, I don't think I had a link specifically, but you can go to WatchGuard.com. If you guys haven't checked out our knowledge base articles, and I do realize I have about 4 minutes remaining, so I'm going to rush through this just a little bit faster here. Technical search, and you can click on AuthPoint from there. Type in AuthPoint. And the other thing about WatchGuard AuthPoint is that you actually don't even need a WatchGuard firewall. We can actually integrate with any other additional firewall competitors out there just by setting up a radius gateway from there. So click on AuthPoint Radius. You have your Firebox configure MFA for Radius client, AuthPoint Radius integration with Big 5 or F5, excuse me. So just know that those links are there as well. Jim, I assume total VPN throughput in a combination of branch house VPNs and mobile VPN. Can we throttle mobile VPN to maintain acceptable branch house VPN? So mobile VPN, you can go ahead and throttle those down as well. Thanks for your questions, Jim. You can throttle those down, but your speeds, when you look at your VPN speeds, again, under your, let's go to WatchGuard.com. I want to show you guys, in case you're not familiar with it, under your individual data sheet. So if I click on resources and I go data sheets under here, under my individual data sheet, we actually have so our product matrix. But if you look at, for instance, the M270 and 370 data sheet specifically, you're going to see a new line item on there. And that is really what we call the IMIX numbers, internet mix of numbers. And that's going to be your throughput speeds under there. So you have your VPN throughput speeds, 480. So that one is a combination. Great question on your branch office VPN and your mobile user VPN connection speed throughput under there. All right. Kevin, hey, long time no talk. Good to hear this question from you. IPsec VPN, again, I would just convert those. I'm assuming you're talking about the branch office VPN connection to connection. That one's great to continue using that. But again, your mobile users, I would suggest going to Egg V2. Hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, Jonathan, you're throwing me some shade on Windows 8. Yes, I recognize Windows 8 in there. Sorry about that. It does take, as you can see, I'm taxed with resources. Takes a little bit smaller hard drive space on there. So sorry about that. But yes, I will work on getting those demos converted over. Is it possible to use the access portal to create an RDP connection to a remote desktop services gateway server? Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can do that. RDS under there as well. And you can also protect RDP server and RD web with AuthPoint as well. So just know that's there. Where do you install the gateway if using a cloud directory service like Jump Cloud or OneLogon, both cloud LDAP? So again, that one is actually just came out of beta. So we have the Azure, the synchronization, Active Directory. Now, one thing I did want to mention, so to answer your question, you can set up the AuthPoint with that. I don't think I have my window open, but I will certainly cover that in future sessions on how to do that. But one of the things I wanted to mention as well is this area of SAML resources. So with SAML resources, what you can do is have a single sign-on that's security assertion markup language. And let me log out of this guy here. My lion's getting in the way. So this is what we use at WatchGuard to authenticate into all of our different resources, web resources. So as I log on here, and again, this would just need to be set up for each website that you have. Send push notification, and again, WatchGuard AuthPoint becomes the IDP portal. I'm sending the response, and then it's going to allow me to get in here. Now, if I were to book travel, funny joke, but if I needed to book travel, I can click on Concur, and lets me right into my Concur app without having any additional log-on process there. That's a single sign-on. So to answer your question, Kyle, hopefully more specifically, there is no software to install for Azure. You would just need to set up that bridge. All right, I think I'm all caught up on my questions. So again, this allows me to sign in to Concur right from there, no additional, and it says, hello, Johan, it recognizes me under there. All right, back to the slides. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. And then we also have some additional slides as well from there, securing your endpoints. So I kind of joked, I said, well, how much time do you actually have? Because we can talk about TDR, we can talk about what we're doing, for instance, with WatchGuard Passport. Again, great new product by WatchGuard by focusing on that endpoint security. So this one's actually available for sale today, but with WatchGuard, you get DNS Watch Go, you get AuthPoint, and you get a TDR, threat detect and response for endpoint protection. Make sure you guys are keeping in touch. Make sure you're getting those emails. Reach out to me because we're going to have some exciting news when it comes to some of the Panda updates from there. And on that note of staying in touch, make sure that you guys are also connecting with Corey and Mark from the Daily Security Bites. Daily Security Bites to 443, the podcast, social media. Make sure that you guys are staying in touch with the trends that we're seeing out there. And again, as Wendy mentioned, we actually have a survey. Hit that QR code, fill out that survey. Hopefully you guys don't roast me too much. I know that you guys are loving my Windows 8 demo. Make sure that you guys provide feedback and that you request future Firebite sessions as well on topics from there. All right, Wendy, do we have any more? So there is another question, last minute question from Brian. Can you do pre-connection endpoint integrity checks with M670 Total Security? So as I mentioned with that, you can't do a full integrity check per se, but you can do the TDR. I mentioned that earlier in the Firebite session. You can go under TDR and verify that they have TDR. And certainly as we integrate that more endpoint security under Passport, you're going to have those additional features as well. And you're going to see that from us doing more of those integrity checks. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Again, please fill out the survey. Let us know how we're doing. Show us some love. I recognize in this time of us all working remote, video is a great way for us to stay connected, and hopefully you appreciate the video. But with that, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next Firebites.